But younger teams are generally healthier and they stay upright. And if you're going to have a new champion every year, would you not take your chances with younger players in younger teams compared to older teams that are more likely to break down health-wise?
Yo, you said it, man. Like, I think the future, the next phase is going to be teams that are built like the Pacers and the Celtics. Like, look at the Pacers right now. They had the highest points per game from their bench in the regular season. They're built to outrun you, outwork you, and hit shots, man. They were nails up until the last lemon booty couple minutes of that game. They were unbelievably high execution in that game. And they were doing that against the Knicks too, where they're hitting shots, they're running up and down the gym. And like Rick Carlisle, that was part of the program, was like, yo, we're going to go 10 deep with our bench. Mm-hmm. And our top guys aren't going to play 48 minutes a game. We're going to be able to lean on our bench, our youth, and just execute at a high level. Like, the ability to coach this Indiana Pacers team to the level that he is kind of crazy when you think about how young they are and how they're using Obi Toppin as like a key member of this team, where like he couldn't get off the bench for Tom Thibodeau, right? Tom Thibodeau's like, I got my 6 guys and I'm going down with the ship, right? He is playing the violin on the Titanic and being like, I'm going down with the ship. The problem with that thinking is, what is the cost to next year? Jalen Brunson is now going to have surgery on his hand, probably some rehab on his foot, whatever was going on with his foot. And he's going to lose a couple months this summer rehabbing when he could be fresher, I would argue, if he wasn't, dealing with these bumps and bruises and 48-minute games. Same with Josh Hart. Is like, I feel like Tom Thibodeau has a very high floor as a coach, but also a very low ceiling as a coach. He has been in the postseason 9 times. He has not made it to the finals at any of those 9 times. And there are great head coaches who have the same similar postseason fate. Mike D'Antoni comes to mind. But Mike D'Antoni faces the same sort of he can't build a winner, the same sort of like, I don't know, a doubt as his abilities to coach at the highest levels of the game. And I feel like Tom Thibodeau, he's not going to change, man. And judging by his post-game press conference, he ain't going to change at all. Those Tigers are not changing their stripes. And I feel like this might be the best. This might be the best it ever gets for the New York Knicks, because I think those injuries, it's not just in a vacuum. Those things add up. And as we saw with Isaiah Thomas, man, you push those bodies to the brink, and at some point, you might not ever be the same. And not to say that Jalen Brunson's the next Isaiah Thomas, but it's not
You're talking
like
about
these
Isaiah
Bills
Boston Celtics, Isaiah Thomas.
Correct. And by the way, Isaiah Thomas, his career was shortened not just because of the high minutes, but just like, talk about man, if we could see that guy from 35, 36, 37, we never got to see that because of injury. Mm-hmm. But I will just say, this injury thing next year, I feel like a lot of teams are going to build their teams like the Celtics, where instead of going out and trying to get a Kevin Durant finals MVP, a guy who's in his late 30s, going to try to go get LeBron, going to try to go get whomever it might be. Steph Curry is great, but they didn't make the playoffs, So I feel like the next phase is going to be strength in numbers. And it's weird to say that about the Warriors because that was their mantra, but more A-, B+ players, because the injuries are going to take a toll in the postseason. But you know what? Kristaps Porzingis is down, and the Celtics are 7 wins away from winning a title, and they look like they're in the driver's seat because they have so many good players.
The problem is nobody actually believes that the Celtics are going to win a title. We just say that they should. and the point is of Isaiah, you're right. Isaiah Thomas the greater, is he had the Achilles injury that was the thing that ended, but he had broke his hands, a few times. Once punching Bill Cartwright, another time punching Bill Laimbeer. And yes, Bill Laimbeer was on his team. You know what I mean? And then he had wrist surgery in 91, which basically ended that season. And it was all the nicks and bruises of being a 6'1" guy playing in a compressed era. By compressed, I mean, Tom, the floor wasn't spread. You're getting hit all the time. Like, it's not like a wind up and hit because there's just not enough space. Everybody's operating in the same real estate, and you're just going to get whacked. And that does damage to your knees and your shoulders. And, especially if you're a little guy. Now I think the injury risk is because of so much back and forth, because of so much of the pace of today's game. And you have to cover so much ground in the half
court. Geometry, man. You said it. The geometry of the game where you're having to run around and defend 40 feet in.
Mm-hmm.
The screens that are being set now are near half court every damn time down the floor. So like the bigs and the smalls, they're just the sheer geometry of the game is so much more demanding on your tendons, your knees, your ligaments than ever before.
Yeah, and here's the weird thing. I think, the whole super team thing. If you're still trying to find yourself a third superstar, you're probably doing it wrong, Los Angeles Lakers. That's probably not the way to build your team and to think that you're going to find a champion somewhere within that. But go ahead. It just makes for more, ESPN, Yahoo Sports, podcast and written word fodder because the expectations will rise and that's not the game that's being played anymore. But Tom, if injuries are our guide, if the healthiest team wins, what team will win the NBA title out of the Final Four?
To me, I think the injury question is more solved by the Boston Celtics than anybody else. You look at Luka and his knee. You look at Karl-Anthony Towns and his knee. I mean, the meniscus tear at the end of the season, it doesn't feel like it's all good right now. Like he's been limping around in the postseason. Mike Conley's questionable. Mike Conley's questionable with the calf strain, and he missed a game already. The Minnesota Timberwolves have had one player game lost due to injury this entire postseason run, and it was Mike Conley, and it's still not right. Being listed as questionable, and he's probably going to play. He might play in game one, but the fact that they're listing him is evidence that he's not right.
Right.
Then you got the fact that the Pacers, I feel like, yes, they're healthy. And Mathurin's the only guy that they've had out this entire postseason, which is really impressive. But to me, I think their ceiling isn't winning the championship in the same way that the Boston Celtics are. They just got so much talent. Derek White, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They've just got so many weapons that even if Kristaps Porzingis needs to wait a series and come back in the finals, I think they can get there. So I feel like the Boston Celtics, they've been pretty healthy on average. They've had a healthier postseason than average this year. But still, there's questions there. And let's just hope that we get a completely injury-free conference finals and finals so that we don't have to talk about, man, if this team was healthy. It's so annoying to have to do that at the end of the year. Like the conversations that you have, the content that we produce about but if the Knicks were healthy, if the Minnesota Timberwolves were healthy, the Milwaukee Bucks were healthy. What about if Philly, if Embiid's healthy? Those what if they were healthy things are not good for the game. And I just hope we don't have to have those conversations when it's all said and done.
Well, I think, honestly, it's just a part of the game. I legit think it is a part of the discussion and you have to bake it in. Like we bake it in with football all the time. And injuries play a huge part in that game. And maybe it's more acceptable because of the physicality of it. And we think of basketball as being a non-contact sport. Maybe we should think of it as being a contact sport. It's just part of it. Like you can go up and down the list. And I said a little bit earlier, you can go up and down the list. You can define a champion from maybe the only year that you probably couldn't say it is 2001 with the Lakers, right? Even the 17 Golden State Warriors had to deal with a Kawhi Leonard who was tearing them down bit by bit in game one of that Western Conference Final Series. And then Zaza Pachulia decided, hey, y'all, this is a little too close for comfort. Let me just stick my foot underneath his leg. Like, up until then.
That shoe should be in the Hall of Fame, the Naismith Hall of Fame.
And that might have been
Zaza's shoe.
And that Golden State team might be the single best team I've ever seen in my life. That could be better than the 96 Bulls, better than the 2001 Lakers. But the 2001 Lakers, the only thing that stopped them in one game was Allen Iverson going for 48 in overtime, and the Lakers had 8 days off. But other than that, I think you can look to every NBA champion. I mean, even the 6-time champion Bulls, all the LeBron James championships, the Bad Boys, the Showtime Lakers, everybody that you can think of, and you can say, man, an injury here or there could change the fortune. So I think injury plays a part in the story of it. And I just think we have to just become more accepting of it. I just don't know if I can fix my mouth to say that these Boston Celtics are going to win an NBA championship. Because especially after seeing last night, I don't know if I see a champion. I just see a team that won the game.